pals never mentioned that buildings can't start over as something else. I just don't know who would buy books from a church is all. Mom, the best-selling book of all time is the Bible. I feel like you're not understanding the basic premise here. Oh, Lillian, I understand the basic premise. I just don't understand why you picked this place to open a bookstore. It was either this place or Kitty's hot mama's house, but that place is still in business. Oh, Lillian, please, in front of a house of worship, she said, walking inside the building. We were still moving in, so the building was half church, half bookstore, but it still received the full mom judgment. She walked around, running her fingers over some pews and checking how dirty they were. Admittedly, they were still filthy because I was currently removing them, but the store was coming into shape. I was scheduled to open in 2 days, so I had basically been living in the store to get it finished in time. So, I'm thinking of having new releases up front, couches where the pews are, the front desk floating in the middle, an entire section over here for romance and romance fantasy books, and a coffee stand with free mugs with purchase. Oh, don't give away coffee, dear. It invites a slothful element. And what's romantasy? Books where fantasy creatures do what typically happens in the back of cars on prom night, often in graphic detail. Mom crinkled her face. And these kind of books are popular. Not the most popular. And no wonder the modern world is in the shape it is. Lil, is this the last of the books? And Jason asked, taking off his well-worn Phillies cap and wiping his brow. Well, this shipment, yes, but another one's due later today. It never ends, he said, shaking his head. Jesus, this humidity's gonna kill me. Oh, Jason, please don't blaspheme in the Lord's house, I said with a wink. I wasn't doing anything. I was appealing to a higher power. Are you two quite finished with your little rat-a-tat? Oh, we've been at this for days. I'm too tired for rats or tats, Jason said. What do you think of the place? It has all the charm of a small-town church. Yeah, it's what we're going for, I said, adding, praise be. Amen, Jason said. Well, your little jokes aside, I admire what you two are doing here. I'm a big fan of literacy in third places. You're building quite a nice hangout spot for the town, so kudos to you both. Thanks, Mom, I said. Seriously, it means a lot. Oh, I knew you had it in you, she said. I didn't imagine it would take this long to find it, but better late than never. There it is, I said with a chuckle. That's the mom I love. Did Lil tell you about the basement? Jason said, changing gears. I didn't know churches had basements, Mom said. Though I suppose you need a place to keep the crackers and wine for service. You make it sound like they serve hors d'oeuvres. I think that's where the priests used to live. Tight but cozy. Noisy too, I said absent-mindedly. What? Mom asked. How so? Jason looked at me annoyed. I sighed. This was my mistake and I was going to have to guide us out. Well, sometimes when you're down there, you hear voices. Voices? Mom said, surprised. Voices, breathing, some knocking, I said. Could just be the church settling. Or the good Lord making himself present, Jason added, trying to smooth out my rough road. Oh, Jason, dear, if the walls are breathing, it's not God's work. Try the guy a little south of here, Mom said, shaking her head. Did you know about this when you bought the place? And it didn't come up. We have since sacrificed a virgin to appease the gods, and that seems to have worked. Oh, very clever, Lil. We're making it our horror section, Jason said. It's got the vibe for it. I've been working on dressing it up. It's his pet project, I said. And just then, my mewing orange tiger-striped cat joined us and gave me the perfect chance to shift gears away from the breathing walls. Speaking of, here's Mookie Pets. He's the grandson that you were hoping for, Mom. Lovely. Hey boy, how are things out in Sky's End? Busy. He meowed, flopped onto his back, and rolled into my feet. I reached down and scratched his belly. He rolled back and forth for a bit before popping up, wrapping himself around my legs and sprinting off into the church. Is it sanitary to have a cat roaming around? Oh, Mookie's good people. Plus, he's got a job. He keeps mice and rats out. It remains to be seen if he's even capable of that, Jason said. So far, all I've seen him master is sleeping in the sunbeams from the stained glass. Oh, he works at his own pace, I said. If you're too hard on him, you'll give him a complex, and then he'll be a weird adult. Oh, he might even buy a church and turn it into a bookstore, Mom said with a nod. I laughed. She's still at her fastball. Is the basement ready to be seen? Oh, not just yet. Close though. The body parts we ordered haven't come in. It is so hard to find a reliable grave robber these days. Jason, I don't know how you put up with her. He hugged me around my waist. Oh, who doesn't love a challenge? Hey, I said, playfully smacking him. That and you love me. That and I love her. Oh, we all do, Mom said. Though some days are harder than others. Oh, it builds character, Mom. Knock knock, came a sing-songy voice from the front door. We all looked over and saw Darcy, the town mayor, come sauntering inside the church. She was always this chipper, which is probably why she had been elected 6 times in a row. That and nobody really wanted to be the mayor. In a place as small as Sky's End, there really wasn't too much to do. It was the perfect job for somebody who needs to stay busy with minor tasks. And Darcy, how goes the mayoral dealings today? Oh, you know, the fun never stops. Had to remind Jeff at Jeff's Market not to feed the raccoons at night. I'm afraid he's domesticating them. I've seen so many of them around the church at night, I'm thinking of hiring them as security. Darcy sighed. They're not even afraid of people anymore. I went out last night to check on some noises that I heard behind my shop, and I saw 10 of them standing there just waiting for a handout. Those things are disease-ridden, Mom said. Ghastly beasts. Oh, they're cute, I said. No, your mother's right. They're a blight on the city. We've worked long and hard to make Sky's End a picturesque small town, and I won't have roving gangs of raccoons ruining it. Roving gangs? Is it like West Side Story? Rival raccoon gangs fighting for turf, the love of a pretty young thing, and to sing songs about their favorite dumpsters, I said. Oh, you laugh, but when they're crawling inside this place eating your books, you want them gone too, Darcy said. But I didn't stop by to talk about the night bandits. Not this time, at least. I came to see if you were still on track for your opening date. Yeah, I think so, I said, turning to Jason to help confirm. We should be good enough to open. Might still have a few odds and ends to finish, but we're on track. I hired the best contractors, I said, slapping Jason on the butt. Oh, well, that's great to hear. The Harvest Festival is the premier event of the Sky's End social calendar. The night walk to St. Asbiel's Church is a storied tradition handed down from the town's founders. It's essential that we keep the tradition going. The town will pillory me if I screw it up. We've already promised our sponsors that we would be ready to go. We have to be ready to go. I know it looks dusty in here, but we're gonna be okay. She surveyed the construction and shook her head. Are you sure? I know you're new to the town, so the importance of this may be lost on you, but... Darcy, I said, interrupting her nervous breakdown. If my man says that we're on track, I believe him. We're golden. She turned to Jason. Are you sure? Positive. It looks worse than it is. My daughter is a lot of things, but a liar isn't one of them. If she says it'll be done, it'll be done. I give you permission to unclench, I said, touching Darcy's tensed shoulders. She must have believed us, because her whole body relaxed. She smiled and gave me a small clap. "Oh, sorry to come across as manic, but there are so many people who look forward to this event, and I just want it to be special." "And you're up for re-election, right?" I joked. She smiled. "Well, that might be a secondary reason, yes. You are a bright one." "At least 60 watts, I said. "Well, I'll leave you to your, cleaning. I look forward to seeing it all done," she said. She saw the sign for the large romanticy section and squealed in delight. "Oh my, is this area going to be all romanticy?" "Yes, ma'am, all the fairy love and fun that's fit to print." She lowered her voice and smiled. "Don't tell anyone, but that's my favorite genre. So spicy yet so fun." "Hey, your secret's safe with me," I said. "Come by when we're officially open and I'll let you take the pick of the litter." "On the house." "Oh, I'm gonna take you up on that offer, dear," Darcy said, nearly floating out of the building. As she left, I turned to Jason. "Did I just bribe the mayor?" Sounded like it, Lil. "I think I just became involved in a political scandal." "I'd call you Deep Throat, but your mother's nearby," he whispered. "Oh, Jason dear, can you help me bring in my things from the car? I'd like to get my room set up before nightfall, and I would hate to be accosted by roaming raccoons," she said, apparently not hearing his joke or choosing to ignore it. I kissed Jason on the forehead and the two of them left to bring Mom's stuff into our little house across the street. I watched them go and felt a strange emotion overtake me. Happiness. It felt weird, like putting your tongue on a 9-volt battery. With everyone gone and Mookie running around doing God knows what, I had a little time to do a walk around the church and take stock of what else I needed to do. It was in these quieter moments that I allowed myself to push aside the joy of ownership and focus on what other chores we had to take on. It was always our dream to open a charming bookshop in a small town. I've always been an avid reader and Jason loves a project. The church coming up for sale wasn't on our radar, but when we found the ad online and the low price, we had to jump. Dreams don't wait for the perfect time to happen. They just do. It had been a hectic month. Pulling the rows of church benches and pews was a nightmare, but once they were gone, the true vision of the store took shape. It was quirky and unique, but I found that all the best bookstores were. My favorite from childhood was an old converted bank. The vaults held different genres. The owners had made a ton of the books that you could walk through. Local artists took up small corner offices where accountants had once toiled, and now made something beautiful for all the patrons to see. I wanted something like that, and I found it in St. Asbiel. The walls were adorned with exquisite stained glass windows depicting the Stations of the Cross. When the sun reached midday, the store's floor was bathed in a kaleidoscope of color. Above us was a spire that easily made us the tallest building in Sky's End, with a bell that would chime every hour. The heartbeat of the town. The grounds had flowering bushes, soaring oaks, and a greening copper statue of St. Asbiel himself, looking out over the greenery. It was a perfect spot for a picnic or to read a chapter before heading back to work. We were lucky that we found this place. I was in the former quiet room, the coffee cafe, when I heard the bell to the front door chime. Assuming that it was Jason returning, I called out, "Hey, any chance you brought me lunch?" When there wasn't a response, I turned around to see who had come into my clearly closed door, but I didn't see anyone. "Jason, you there?" Nothing. I walked out into the store's central area and I looked around. I didn't notice anybody else in there, but I felt a presence there. Another energy. Sounds woo-woo, I know, but you know the charged feeling you get when you're around others. I had that, but apparently I was the only one. "Mookie, if you figured out how to ring the bell, I swear to God." I started but stopped when I heard footsteps heading down the stairs. I knew that Jason had been determined to get his horror section into shape, but it was unlike him not to let me know that he had come back. I made my way to the stairs as quietly as mice wrestling on cotton and gave a listen. I didn't hear any footsteps anymore. Instead, I heard a voice. It wasn't Jason's. It also wasn't clear like hearing a radio through a wall. You know that someone is talking, but the language is just word-shaped gibberish. Sims speaking to each other. Clear as day to them, but leaving their creator guessing what the hell they mean. I took a hesitant step down and cocked my ears as if I were fine-tuning the radio, fiddling with the knobs until the static cleared, and I could hear a Red Hot Chili Peppers song that I hated anyway. Another step down toward the basement, leaning forward, bracing myself on the banister. I could almost make out what they were saying. It was something like, a book on the shelf behind me fell to the floor with a crash. I gasped as if someone had been choking the life out of me and nearly tumbled down the stairs. I spun around expecting to see a ghoul rising from the floor ready to possess me, but instead I heard the soft, friendly trill from Mookie. He lay down on the shelf and knocked off 2 more books. I caught my breath and laughed, and I brought my forehead against his. You're so lucky that you're darling, because otherwise I'd boot you outside to fight off those gang-affiliated raccoons. Once my heart jumped back into my body and started working again, I leaned down to listen for the voices, but I heard nothing. I chalked it up to a radio outside and then decided just to not think about the bell ringing or the footsteps that I had heard. If there were ghosts, let them be welcoming. I can't have them scaring away sales. Mom had insisted on taking us out for breakfast the following morning. There aren't a lot of choices, and so we went with Sweet Lou's Diner on Main. Sweet Lou was as brassy as a Ninth Ward band with sass to spare. She wouldn't be out of place in a 40s noir movie, which I found charming, but results may vary. Oh, hey doll, how goes the old sit-stand Neil house? Sweet Lou said, pouring us all mugs of coffee. It's coming along. Should be ready to go in time for the festival. Oh, thank the big guy, she said. So important that the church is up and running by then. It's a bookstore now, Mom said. Ludicrous, I know. Still have the stained glass? She asked. Yep, Jason said. And the spire and the bell. I looked down at my watch and pointed outside. As the minute hand spun, the tolling started. I couldn't shut the bell off if I tried. Then I still say it's a church. To be square with you, I'm glad that somebody's taking care of it again. I don't want to tell tales out of school, but Father was a little lax with the upkeep. You don't say, Jason said with a knowing smile. Oh, that St. Asbiel's statue had so much debris on its face. I had somebody ask me if it was supposed to be Karl Malden. Why did the church go up for sale? I assume people in this town still need to have a place of worship, Mom asked. Sweet Lou shrugged. I heard it was church business, doll. Oh, the big religious muckety-mucks did some reconfiguring and thought that St. Mark's in Silver Pond was big enough for 2 flocks. Big church muckety-mucks, I said. How high up are we talking? Mighty thin air near the top. Oh, not the big guy or his son, but maybe his pal with the hat, Lou said with a smirk. Just what I heard. I ain't been to church since I started sinning. You guys know what you want. We ordered and Lou dashed off to get it started. Mom took a sip of the coffee and marveled at how it tasted. She even gave it a little, like the commercials. Lil, I meant to tell you, I had a strange dream last night. Was it a hamburger eating you? Oh no, dear, nothing as ironic as all that. I was standing outside your church and I saw a man standing on the roof. He was glowing white and speaking, but I couldn't understand what he was saying. Then he just disappeared. Isn't that odd? Oh, if he's a licensed and bonded roofer and he's affordable, then he's hired. One less thing that I have to do, Jason said, sipping his coffee. What do you think it means? I don't have the foggiest idea. Sometimes dreams are just dreams. The lesser known Freud analysis, I said, doing a horrid German accent. The dreams are just funny puzzles with no meaning. Well, doctor, what do you think it means? I took a sip of my coffee and gave it a once-over. Maybe it means God is watching over the bookstore. You mean church, darling? I do, Mother, yes. Or maybe Dr. Manhattan shed the blue and paid us a visit in this timeline and the next and the next. Mom waved me off. I don't have any clue what you're talking about half the time. Jason leaned in between us and nodded at the back corner of the diner. You noticed that guy watching us the entire time that we've been in here. Oh, maybe he's taken by our beauty. I keep catching him looking over. He mumbled something to the table next to him and they started looking over. It's not the first guy I've seen either. The whole town seems to be interested in us. Well, I mean, you two are the newest members in a town that seems to be closely knit. They're probably sizing you all up, seeing how well you'll fit in. I thought clique drama all stopped in high school. Lil, high school dynamics never change. There are always in-groups and out-groups. Right now, you're right on the line. Maybe if we go to the pep rally and they see our school spirit, they'll accept us as one of them, I joked. Oh, laugh, but a good impression at that festival would go a long way in earning their trust. Small towns are small for a reason. They want it that way. Outsiders bring in outsider ideas. And you make us sound like Plague Rats or Kevin Bacon in Footloose. You the folks that bought the church, right? Said the gossip monger that Jason had spotted. Without us noticing, he'd crept to our table and loomed over us. The shock of the stranger's voice caught me and I nearly choked in my coffee. And Jason, who had been vigilant, took the lead. We are, yeah. Jason, Lillian, and Joan. You are? Chip Hogshead Lumber, he said, extending his hand. Been in town since the founding. You don't look a day over 30, I said, finding my composure. How you folks finding Sky's End? Lovely, I said. So welcoming. Oh, we are, but that's a secret. Don't go blabbing to all the city folk and bring them here. Changes the town, you know. Present company excluded, Jason said. Remains to be seen, he said, eyeing us. You seem like good people, though. They are, Mom said. And everyone we've met here has been the same. I'm glad to hear. Hope to see you all at the bonfire. I donated the lumber. Warped dead stock, but it'll burn. At a certain temperature, everything does, right? He laughed and we gave him polite smatterings in return. But the concern between the three of us was visible to anyone with a clue. Have a good one. Can't wait to see the church. The bookstore, I quietly offered. Order up, Sweet Lou said, placing our food down in front of us. We ate most of the meal in silence. Mom said she wanted to go see the town library and left us for the day. It was fine with me, and Jason and I needed to get back to the grindstone at the church. I imagined Darcy somewhere sensing that we were behind on our projects and having a mini embolism. Hell hath no fury like a festival planner scorned. And Jason had taken to building out some of the shelving units, and I was organizing books by genre when I got the feeling that I was being watched again. At first, I assumed it was Mookie waiting for me to glance in his direction so that I could feed him, but he was sleeping on a pile of Stephen King books. I turned behind me toward the front door and I didn't see anyone standing there. I shook it off and kept at my task, but the feeling wouldn't go away. After another excruciating minute of that feeling gnawing at me, I made my way over to Jason and got his read on things. He was knee-deep in attaching panel C to board F when I came over. I hate that these adult Legos have become the go-to standard for furniture. Diabolical Swedes, I said. Hey, do you feel like someone's watching you? I just assumed you were. I glanced, but that's not what I'm talking about. The last 2 days, I felt like somebody's been in here watching me while I work. Darcy has eyes everywhere? I'm sure she does, but that's not what I'm talking about. I know, he said, putting down the plank of wood. I've had that feeling too. The way the people at the diner were staring and talking has really stuck with me. And did we make the right call buying this place? I think so. I think your mom was right. We're the new guy on the job. It takes a bit for the new guy to find their place. We can't force it. I plopped down next to him, picked up an Allen wrench and twirled it to my fingers. I just want this awkward stage to be over. Jason spoke, but the sound of a stack of books crashing to the ground near the back door shut us up. He glanced at me and pointed for us to move closer to the source of the noise. He floated across the floor, careful not to make a sound, and I felt my heartbeat tick up. I crouched and slowly slunk to where he was standing. From our vantage point, we could see that our back door was open. There was a strong wind and several of the books had flipped open, and the pages turned as if a meth-addled ghost was speed reading. I saw Jason's shoulders relax. He turned back to me and whispered, I think the wind blew the door open. I should replace that latch. In the shadowy area about 10 feet in front of us, we heard the skittering of sharp nails on the wood floor. Jason ran over and caught sight of something small and furry, dashing off deeper into the stacks. It's a raccoon. What? I said. Behind me, I heard the soft tapping of nails on the floor. I turned back and saw several other raccoons scattering away from us. I don't know what came over me, but I started chasing after them. They moved quickly, but their little paws failed to find purchase on the ground. The last one blew a tire and slid into the bookshelf. As it rolled onto its back, and I got a look at its face, I screamed. There was a person's face staring back at me. Raccoon's body, human face, all terror. The hell? I screamed and fell back onto my ass and kicked away from it as hard as I could. My yell was so loud that I was afraid that I would shatter the stained glass. The raccoon flopped back onto its feet and sprinted like a bat out of hell through the maze of bookshelves and out of sight. Jason came running over, helped me off the ground, and tried to make sense of my rambling. Lil, you're not making any sense. The raccoons were eating a human face. It had a human face. Jason laughed. I don't think he was making fun of me, I just don't think his brain could process that sentence in any logical way. The idea of it was so absurd, and yet I had seen it. Once his titters died down, he asked, Are you sure it didn't have a mask on? It might have got tangled up with some Halloween decorations before it came in. No, it had a face, and it looked familiar. Lil, did you hit your head when you fell, or... Jason, I'm serious. I know what I saw. The church's front door burst open. It was Jeff from Jeff's Market. He looked disheveled. His wet, sweaty hair slicked back behind his ears. His dirty, puddle-brown eyes were manic, and he moved with the grace of somebody with 2 left feet. He stumbled into the store, looked me dead in the eye, and said, Did you know that you had about 6 raccoons run out of here? It's why I screamed, Jeff, I said, trying to compose myself. It didn't work. My whole body was still trembling. Oh, that's the midnight brood, he said, glancing to and fro to make sure that we were the only ones who heard. Not sure why they were out already. It's not like them at all. What? Those things are everywhere. I'd started tracking them at night. Darcy said you were feeding them, Jason said. Yeah, that's what I told her, he said, closing the door behind him and walking toward us. But it's not true. I started noticing their strange behavior when I bought the store about a year ago. They moved in a pack from building to building every night. Looking for food? Jason asked. I've never seen them eat. I even left out cake for them to try. They left it alone. What are they doing? I don't know, but it's not natural. I brought it up with the town officials, but they said I'm crazy. Said rural raccoons act differently than the ones that I'd seen in the cities growing up. Have you ever, seen one with a human face? Jeff paused and then shook his head. Never, why? She was reading one of the new horror books that we have in. She's only joking, Jason said, coming to my rescue. You're new here too. I was the newest one before you. Was going to buy this building actually and turn it into an event space. And J.C. Hall. And then the store came up for sale after Mr. Greggio died. The small town grocer seemed like less of a headache than an event space. I switched up. Have you noticed the townspeople? Watching you, well yeah, they do it for a while. I think people were mad that I didn't go forward with the event space. Sweet Lou said it wasn't right that I backed out of the church sale at the last minute. Said that it ruined last year's harvest festival. Refused to serve me for 3 months. I had another question or two, but then the door opened again and Darcy came walking in. She was as put together as I had ever seen her, dressed as sharp as a knife blade with makeup and hair to match. Oh howdy, coming by for the daily drop-in. It looks worse in here than before. The church will be ready, correct? Jason stepped up. Yes, we're organizing books before shelving them. The mess is required, but it's temporary. You look all glammed up, I said, checking in to see if she was hiding a raccoon tail. My mind was still shaky, but I didn't want to give up the ghost to Darcy. And Darcy laughed. Oh, I like to get all gussied up for the festival. Told Claire at the salon to be bold, and I think it worked. I feel younger. She noticed Jeff standing there, and her face shifted to disappointment. Are you the reason the raccoons were just seen running amok in the town square? Not this time, he said, but I should get back to the store. It's nice chatting with you two. The place looks great. J.C. Hall great. As soon as he was out of earshot, Darcy sighed. Oh, the nerve to bring up J.C. Hall in my presence. Nearly ruined the festival. Mookie, freshly awakened from his nap, was curling around my legs. I picked him up and was about to smother him with pets when he locked eyes with Darcy. He howled, shot out his nails, and clawed away from me. He went behind a pile of books, but his attention was solely on Darcy. Jesus, Mook, you gotta cut those nails. Oh, he's shy, Jason said. I'm nice, Darcy said, waggling her fingers at Mookie. We can be friends. He let out a guttural yowl and sprinted for the basement stairs. A second later, he was gone. The silence in the room was deafening. Don't take offense. He hated me for 6 months at first, Jason said, adding, he's a mama's boy. Who wouldn't love such a lovely young woman, Darcy said. If you want a refresh before D-Day, tell Franny at Citizen Snips that I recommend her. And Darcy turned to leave but stopped in her tracks. The floor under us had started to vibrate. Not an earthquake, but like somebody had put speakers under our feet and blasted a 90s bass track CD. It rattled books off the shelves. When it stopped, Darcy looked over at us and smiled. That was... All the windows in the building shot open at once. I let out another scream and I shook my head. There's something wrong with this place. Something very wrong. Dear, didn't Rose the realtor tell you about the ghosts? What? Jason said, dumbstruck. Oh, Rose, Darcy said, shaking her head. She's getting on in years. I probably should retire. Darcy, I don't give a shit about Rose's future career, I snapped. What the hell are you talking about? Ghosts? Oh yes, well, I don't want to tell tales out of school, but the whole town knows about the spooks of St. Asbiel. It's kind of a local legend. Oh, they're mostly harmless, but seem to get agitated before the festival. I'm gonna throw up, I said, finding a chair and taking a seat. Oh, sorry to be the bearer of bad news. If it helps, I can call the priest over in Silver Ponds to see if he can do anything. Maybe a blessing after the festival. Even before, Jason said. That'd be great. Well, I'll call him this afternoon, she said. Darcy glanced at me. I looked green around the gills and her face puckered into a sympathetic pout. I'll leave you be. Feel better, okay? Big day tomorrow. As soon as the door closed, I found the garbage can and unloaded my Sweet Lou breakfast. Jason rushed over and held back my hair as I went in for round 2. Once I purged everything, I looked up, my eyes watery and my face flushed. Should we sell this place? What? Lil, we'd lose everything. All of our money is invested here. I quit my job to dedicate myself to this dream. I know, I said, spitting out the last remnants of breakfast into the can. But this is starting to feel wrong. Maybe God is giving us signs to leave. The church bells began chiming. A very subtle God, I muttered. The front door opened and Mom blew in like the wind. She had a bag slung over her shoulder stuffed with library books. She glanced around at all the open windows and shook her head. Are you fumigating? She stopped when she saw me, sweaty and clutching a garbage can. Oh, Lil, have you been sick? Must have been something that I ate. It was those pancakes. I didn't like the look of them. Anyway, I went to the charming little library down the street and started looking up anything that I could find on the church's history. I had never heard of St. Asbiel. Anthony, Christopher, Michael, Francis. I've heard of them. But Asbiel? No. So I grabbed this book, she said, hauling out a book the size of a Buick. A complete guide to saints, angels, and demons. It seemed very thorough. Does it double as a weapon against demons? I jokingly asked. Mom ignored me. I also wanted to know a bit more about this town. Everyone here seems so intent on keeping up traditions and all that. I assumed there would be a robust selection of historical books to read, but there wasn't. Oh, where did the rest of those books come from then? Jason asked, nodding at her full bag. Oh, Silver Pond's public library. I asked about Sky's End, and they told me all about the town and this little church of yours. Bookstore. Turns out the church higher-ups, whoever they are, did not close this church. They had no idea what I was talking about. Same with the Harvest Festival. They'd never heard of it. Isn't that odd? I shared a glance with Jason, who nodded. Maybe it's a close-knit Sky's End tradition. You heard the lumber guy talk about bringing in city folks. Oh, funny you should bring them up, she said, pulling out a dusty old tome. I asked if there was a book about the town's history, and they gave me this one about all the local towns in the area and their founding. The section on Sky's End was very thin, but there was a drawing of some of the town's first inhabitants. Tell me, does this man look familiar? She held up a book and pointed to an ancient sketch on yellowed paper. At first, I couldn't place it, but then it clicked. That's the lumber guy, I said, my jaw open. Chip Hammers. Hogshead, Jason said. Hammers? Hey, cut me some slack, I just yacked, I said. But yeah, there's a strong family resemblance. I have a theory, but it's a bit out there, Mom said. I don't think. Mom's theory never saw the light of day. Just outside the church, we heard the screeching of tires followed by a sickening thud and women screaming. We rushed outside and saw a small group of people huddled around a person in the middle of the street. It was Jeff. He was dead. I couldn't believe it. Jeff was dead. He had been inside our shop just minutes before, and then he was a slab of dead meat in the middle of the road. Outside of Nana's funeral, I had never been that close to a body before. Never seen one splayed out in the street, crimson blood pooling under its broken and disjointed form. Even after they took his body away and scrubbed the square, you could still see the outlines of the stain. And Darcy was quick to point out that as tragic as it was, the harvest festival would continue. I was flabbergasted, and any attempt to dissuade her from continuing fell on deaf ears. Hell, anyone I spoke to held the line. The show must go on. And Mom was beside herself. She had been even more removed from these kinds of actions, and the death had struck her hard. She left to spend the rest of the day at her house. The thought of doing anything festive made her ill. She mentioned she was considering cutting her trip short. I told her that I didn't blame her. And Jason and I didn't have that luxury. We needed to keep our minds busy, and so we dove into working on the store. My nerves were KFC level deep fried. I feared that every noise I heard was something looming in the shadows, looking to harm us or pester us about the church's readiness. Yet, our options were limited to 1. Give up our future and leave, or 2. Go home and wallow. Neither sounded like an improvement on the current situation, so I kept my nose to the grindstone. Idle hands are the devil's playthings. How my ancient pilgrim forefathers must have cheered my industriousness from beyond the grave. The day turned to night, and the light from the stained glass muted to all black. I flipped on a few lamps and kept restocking. Jason, brave soul that he is, moved to the basement to put some finishing touches on his pet project. Mookie was with him and sleeping, which good on him for doing so. I didn't know if I would ever sleep again. At around 10, I heard somebody on the back stairs. It was Jason, and the look on his face concerned me. His flushed skin and slack jaw contrasted with his wild and wide-open eyes. He waved me over without a word. "What's up?" I whispered. "I have to show you something." That doesn't sound promising." He led me down the squeaky stairs until we were standing inside the former priest's bedroom. Mookie had woken from his slumber and was pacing in front of a section of cinder block wall. Jason nodded at it. "He's been doing this for a while. I'd check, and I think there's a hidden room behind this wall," he said, tapping on the cinder block. It did sound hollow, but what I know about construction could fit inside a teapot with room for cream. "And there wasn't anything listed on the blueprints when we bought it," I said. "I know," he said, "but Mookie won't stop meowing." I came over and slapped the wall, and it sounded different. Hollow. "And give it a whap." I did. I didn't seem off until I hit another section of the wall and I heard the distinction. I glanced at Jason to ask what we should do, but saw that he was already cradling his sledgehammer, sluggo. I didn't argue. I just scooped up Mookie and took 2 big steps back. And Jason swung the hammer like Thor, and after several solid hits, the cinder block crumbled. A hole to the unknown had opened right in front of us. I held up my phone to get a view into the void behind the wall. I saw nothing at first, but then we heard somebody say, "Help." I stumbled back and nearly introduced my ass to the ground. Jason looked confused, but then he heard the voice too. This time louder, a little less hoarse, and he backed away as well. We shared a look of astonishment. "Hello?" The weak voice called out again. "Have you come to free me after all these centuries?" I looked over at Jason and mouthed a string of curse words. Not sure if he got most of what I was saying, but he got the gist. I had about 9 million questions to ask, but my brain and mouth couldn't come to an agreement about which to ask first. Instead, I just whispered, "Pata, a buzz baba." My thoughts exactly. What the hell is that? A man in the wall. Why is there a man in the wall? How is there a man in the wall? I don't think my brain knows how to process any of this, Jason said. Mookie, as curious as his kind are, instantly hopped up onto the hole and peered into the darkness. He meowed and we heard it echo back. Before I could grab him, he jumped into the room. Mookie! I moved to the hole and peered in without my phone. I couldn't see a thing at first. Once my eyes adjusted, though, I noticed a figure slumped against the far side of the wall. They were in an ancient jail cell. From the void, Mookie meowed again, this time more forcefully. It twisted into a growl before evolving into a snarl. He hissed a few more times and I heard him nervously skitter back toward the hole. I just moved my face out of the way before he came leaping through and bolted up the stairs, hissing as he did. I glanced over at Jason and swallowed hard. Just what the heck was going on in there? I went back to the cinderblock portal and tried to get a better view of whatever had spooked my poor boy. I couldn't make out much, but I heard someone jostling. Hello? I said. Are you okay? What a stupid thing to ask. Obviously, the person trapped in a jail cell behind a walled-up secret room isn't okay. Do you need help? Have you come to free me from them? From who? The Watchers, he hissed. Well, that was terrifying. Way worse than the raccoons. I turned back to Jason. You need to break down this wall. I'm gonna go find help. From who? This whole town closes down at 9. I don't know. I'm sure Darcy's out on vermin patrol. I'll call 911 too. But this guy is going to need immediate help, I said before turning back to the hole. Sir, just be patient. We're gonna go grab some help. Beware the Watchers. I'll try my best, I said before I scrambled up the stairs, following the trail that Mookie Pets had blazed. I hit the top floor and headed straight for the front door. For the first time since our move to Sky's End and the purchase of the church, I didn't feel safe. I guess finding a man walled into a hidden room in your basement will do that to a person. I burst out onto the street and was surprised to find several people walking around. A few of them were huddled together and pointing at the church. A second glance told me that they were with the Harvest Festival Committee. Their lanyards gleamed in the moonlight. Rushing over, they ceased their conversation and looked at me with concern. They must have thought I was an insane person with how wild I was acting, but they kept their personal feelings behind a mask of politeness. Oh, thank God you're out here. There's somebody inside my walls. I need help. The group of people shared a look, telepathically decided that I was insane or on drugs or maybe both. And then the lead person, Rachel, I think, looked at me with sympathetic eyes and said, Darling, are you okay? No, I said. We just stumbled into some weird shit, and I don't know what to do or who to turn to. I patted myself and realized that I didn't have my phone. Can one of you call the cops? I probably need an ambulance too. Oh, you won't be able to get those two boys. They're on a fishing trip until Harvest Day. Yearly tradition. Trout before turkey, they call it, Rachel said. Oh, they usually catch the limit too. Another one of the committee members added, as if I could give a rat's ass about their fishing prowess. Lillian, we should talk, came a voice that I was familiar with from behind me. Darcy, we should talk with Jason too. Darcy, I'm not in the right state of mind to worry about the teeny tiny details about the festival, okay? I just found a man walled up in my bookstore. Oh, I know about him. We all do. Jesus Christ, news travels fast in a small town, I said. How did you hear already? Oh, I've known about him. We all have. The committee. The entire town, Darcy said. Come, let's go talk to Jason. My mouth went Sahara, Gobi even. Death Valley on a bad day. I felt wrung out and the lack of liquid struck me dumb. I had questions and I wanted to speak, but nothing came from me. Darcy offered her hand and I took it. The Harvest Festival committee went on planning as if I hadn't just spun them some magical tale. I heard Rachel mention something about putting the bonfire near the grand gazebo this year, and Darcy led me to the store. She was speaking, I saw her mouth moving, but the blood whooshing in my ears drowned it out. Was the whole town in on this oddity? If so, why hadn't anybody mentioned it to me when I purchased the church? Why was he there at all? How was he alive? Who the hell was he? He's a demon, Darcy said once Jason had joined us upstairs. She said it as plainly as a person ordering their favorite coffee at Buzz's Bean. He's been in there since the town's founding. He's the reason we founded the town way out in the middle of nowhere. It's where they caught him. Hold up, Jason said, as gobsmacked as I had been. Is this a Halloween prank or something? Oh, tease the new folks. A hazing for the newest Skyenders. And Darcy politely chuckled. Oh, no, this is real. Obviously, it's not something we're going to put in the tourist brochures, but up to this point, we had no concerns about it. Our problems were walled up in the basement room where Father Gusion lived, and he wasn't going to spill the beans. You said that you caught him. I started before Darcy cut me off. The town founders, I wouldn't have stood a chance. I can't even run a mile without stopping for a breather. Chasing and imprisoning a demon. I'm out. Who are they? Darcy sighed and leaned on her elbows closer to us. We mirrored her actions. If I tell you this, all of it, you cannot tell anyone else. It can't leave this town. If word of this got out into the wider world, well, let's just say an underprepared harvest festival would be the least of our concerns. Do you understand what I'm saying? Yes, Jason and I said in unison. Darcy nodded, took a beat, and started. They're called the Watchers, the people who tracked and found the demon Ralph. Wait. The demon's name was Ralph, like Wiggum or Cramden, I said. Oh, it's a longer name, but we all refer to him as Ralph. It's easier than breaking out an ancient, multisyllabic Aramaic word. Aramaic? The language that Jesus spoke. Darcy nodded. This thing is old and very dangerous. It's why they built a cell under the church and walled it off. Lo, if the beast's face sees the heavenly light of the sun, misfortune and ruin will follow. It's scripture. Basically, if Ralph got loose, it put everyone in the town at risk. Just then, an orange blur came wheeling into the room and jumped up onto the desk. Mookie had returned from wherever he had run off to. His pupils were huge and it was clear that he was still on guard. I went to pet him, but he scooted away from us. Mookie, what's up? He hissed at me. I felt the sting and he hissed at Jason. He hissed at Darcy before darting away from us. I saw his tail disappear down the basement stairs. I wanted to go grab him, but Jason put a hand on my thigh to keep me in my seat. He leaned in close and whispered, "He'll be okay." What if Ralph hurts him? I said. He hasn't spoken to you, has he? He said to watch out for the Watchers, I said. She put her hand to her mouth. So you spoke with him? Well, not much. Once you find a man in a cell hidden in your walls, the conversation is limited to, "Oh shit," and "I'll get help." Don't talk to him. Every word out of his poisoned mouth is a lie, but it sounds like the truth. That's his demonic power. He's trying to convince you to sympathize with him so you'll release him. It's so important that you don't. I shook my head. Darcy, this is a tall task. You can't seriously ask me to leave a man locked up in a cage inside the walls of my bookstore. It's a church, she said, and I do. I can call a few people over to help patch up the wall and keep watch until you guys are ready to open up. It's easier to ignore him if there's somebody else there to keep you on the right path, so to speak. I can put up a piece of wood over the hole and lock the door to the stairs for tonight, Jason said. We can discuss having armed guards tomorrow. I'm not a fan of that plan, to be honest, I said. We can talk about it more tomorrow after the shock wears off, Darcy said, standing. Please, don't speak to Ralph. Don't tell anybody else about this. Loose lips sink ships. We'll be in contact in the morning. As she got up and left to continue her late-night patrols of a dead small town, Jason and I sat in silence for about 10 minutes. Our brains needed to reboot. Finally, when words found our tongues again, I turned to him and said, We can't tell my mom. Oh God, no. And we need to talk to Ralph, I said. Lil, that's the one thing she said not to do. I don't trust her. Do you? Well, she came across a little odd. Why was she outside at night? Why are any of the harvest people out there? How are none of them bothered by Jeff's death? From the basement, Ralph wailed. We shared a look before we dashed downstairs. Where there had only been a little porthole when I had left for help, Jason had widened the hole large enough for us to walk through. It'd be a tight fit and a subtle reminder to get back to the gym, but I could squeeze through it if the need arose. I hoped it wouldn't. The room was icebox cold, way chillier than anywhere else in the church. It was dark too, like starless night dark, bottom of the sea dark. Not sure how anybody could ever be in here and not go crazy, demon or not. Mookie was in here. I could hear him purring, but I couldn't see him. I hesitantly pulled up my phone and turned on the flashlight. I spotted him right away lying next to a row of iron prison bars. A mysterious white hand stroked the top of his orange head. Mookie, come. He didn't. Cats, man.
The Watchers got you, didn't they?
Oh, something worse. Small town planning committee. I said from outside the hidden room.
Did they tell you a fantastic tale about my origin?
We learned some new information, yes. Your name is Ralph, for one.
It is not Ralph,
he said. Well, they call you Ralph in these parts. Mookie, come here, Jason said, adding cat noises to get him moving. Mookie rolled, stood, stretched, and sauntered back toward us. He was gleefully meowing as he did.
I wouldn't hurt the creature,
Ralph said.
It's not in my nature.
Oh, he bites sometimes, Jason said. The absurdity of warning a literal demon that my house cat may bite it was too much for my brain to take in at once. It broke me. I went for the big question. Are you a demon? I mean, how else would a person still be alive in here with no sunlight, no food, no water? I'm assuming those are magical prison bars or something that keeps you in place. You gotta be a demon, right?
If you already believe that I'm a follower of the Morning Star, would you believe anything I said to refute it?
I mean, at this point, I'm game to hear anything. Yeah, we're kinda through the looking glass here, Jason added, scooping up Mookie and placing him on his shoulders like a little parrot. The boy loves seeing the world from the top.
I am not a demon. I'm an angel.
Huh, I said before the aneurysm burst in my brain.
Those who have told you that I'm a demon have lied.
And Jason laughed because what else could you do? An angel from heaven.
There is no heaven,
Ralph said. Hey, careful with blasphemy, I added, forgetting myself. Jason elbowed me. I earned that.
Heaven is not what man imagines it to be. A pleasing palace among the clouds. Heaven is a much more complex and misunderstood place. My time apart has made my heart miss home, and yet I do not yearn for it. There was so much discord, wearing factions among my kind.
Oh, it happens all the time with any size group.
The Watchers caused the rupture. They corrupted not only man but themselves, unable to control their urges with the child bearers of your race, and thus brought forth new evils into this world.
And the Watchers did this to you.
Yes, they tricked me, bound my feet and hands, and left me here, entombed away from the vision of the True One. Here I have sat for eons awaiting my salvation. Are you my salvation, mortal?
I sell books. Bookmarks, coffee. Not sure I'm anyone's salvation. Can we see you? Jason asked, blissfully cutting me off.
You can look, but you won't truly see. Not the way you're used to.
Jason leaned in and whispered, this is like talking with a fortune cookie. We're gonna come in, I said, surprising even myself. I shared a look with Jason. He didn't look thrilled with this development, but like the gentleman he was, he entered the tiny room first, holding his arm for stability. I crossed the threshold. The room was freezing, and goosebumps rose immediately. It was small too, a fact made worse by these cells splitting the space in half. In the dim light spilling in from the bookstore, you could see only the faintest shape sitting in the corner. The figure looked small and frail, which would make sense considering where he had been hiding for eons. Jason and I both turned down our lights and pointed them at Ralph. He was a lump of naked white flesh sitting in a ball in the corner. When he turned his face to us, his bright red eyes shone back, his pupils constricted in the light. While the red eyes were concerning, what took the cake were the spires sprouting out from the top of his head. "It's a demon," said a voice from the basement stairs. Jason and I spun to see Mom gawping at the creature from the last step. Mom's sudden arrival set Mookie off. He hissed and growled and shot up the stairs in an orange blur. I wasn't sure what got into him or where he would go, but it was the least of my concerns at the moment. Ralph stood and his body transformed as he did. Gone was the frail wisp of a man, a demon angel, and in his steed was a muscled beast, horns scraping the well-worn ruts of the cinder-black ceiling. He clutched the prison bars in front of him with his catcher mid-hands. Why he didn't just rip away the bars was beyond me. God knows he looked like he easily could.
"If you attack me, I shall strike you down,"
Ralph said, his voice booming off the walls.
"My protector grants me the strength to smite my foes."
Hey, she's a 65-year-old woman. I don't think you have to call God down on her. He's not calling God down. He's calling to Satan. Get out of there before he corrupts you both.
"She is the Watcher,"
Ralph said. That's my mom.
"She deceives you. This is one of the Watchers. A demon come to claim their prize."
Mom turned to us. Get out of there. He's going to ruin you.
"They are coming for you,"
Ralph said to me. Unlatch the door and I can protect you. I moved my phone over to the cell door. There was a tiny stick jammed in the lock. A single little sprig of some dried up wood that wouldn't have kept a toddler out. Mookie could have broken it. You can't break that twig of a lock open.
"No, only a human can break it."
Don't touch that lock, Mom said. You let this beast out and it'll kill us all. I turned to Jason, who looked as confused as I felt. Oh, what do you think? I don't know, he said. Who's telling the truth? That's the $64,000 question, I said. My eyes went back and forth between Mom and Ralph. I felt a pain in the pit of my stomach. Lillian, we've had our differences over the years, and God knows that I was against this purchase. But you have to listen to your mother over a demon. Yeah, I said. I should believe her. I would. But something was stopping me. A nagging feeling at the base of my skull. A warning from my ancestors that lit up my brain with flashing caution signs. Lillian, who are all these people? The voice came from the top of the stairs. I stepped out of the room and saw Mom, or another mom, standing at the top of the steps. She was still in her pajamas and looking confused. When she saw another version of herself next to me, she let out a surprised yelp and grabbed the banister for support. Why were there two of my mom? One was bad enough. With everything unfolding the way that it had, my head was swimming already. Instead of laps in a pool, though, I think it was trying to cross the English Channel. I felt lost, confused, adrift.
Break the lock, release me, and I'll help you.
Ralph said, his voice pleading. That woman is one of his tricks. Basement Mom said. I'm a lot of things, madam, but a trick isn't one of them. Stair Mom responded. Lillian, use your common sense and free this thing. Why? Because he's the only thing that can help us. Lies, Basement Mom said, lovingly placing her hand on my arm. She's trying to fool you, dear. Get your hands off my daughter, Stairs Mom said, rushing down the steps. She slapped Basement Mom's hand away. She's a monster, Lil. This whole town is full of them. How do you know? The library book, the one that I looked up. There is no Saint Asbiel, she exclaimed. Asbiel was a demon. They all worship a demon. The silence rushed in. I felt my guts double knot. I held on to Jason to brace myself from collapsing. I tried to speak, I wanted to, but for once, nothing came out of me. The chanting broke the silence. From outside, you could hear what sounded like the entire town standing outside the church, repeating the exact phrase over and over. Through our sacrifice, we shall prosper. They're coming, Mom, my real mom said. She ran for the cage to break the stick, but Basement Mom shoved her hard in the back. Mom lunged forward, smashing her head on the corner of a jagged cinder block. She collapsed to the ground with a sickening thud. Mom! I went down to check on her. Blood was pooling all around her head. I checked for a pulse and I found none. Mom! Jason ran for the cage, but as he did, Basement Mom shot out her hand and a yellow light exploded from her fingertips. It struck Jason in the chest and he stumbled back, clutching himself. As he fell back, we locked eyes and he mouthed the word, "Run." I stood on shaky legs. The chanting was louder now. They had entered the church. I turned to Basement Mom, who was grinning ear to ear. She reached behind her head, dug her nails into her flesh and yanked hard. The sickening sound of tearing filled the room. Basement Mom ripped away her own bloody flesh, gobs of it hitting the ground with wet slabs. Loose hair floating in the dim light. The way she pulled at her skin, I expected to see a skeleton staring at me. But that's not who I saw. Instead of the bone white of a skull confronting me, I was face to face with someone who had been pestering me for days. Darcy. What? Was all I could compel myself to say.
Break the stick,
Ralph yelled, but the deafening chanting from the top of the stairs drowned his voice out. I turned back and saw the deadly choir, dressed in black robes with red runes stitched onto their chests, slowly marching toward me. You don't know how lucky you are, Darcy said in a measured tone, to witness proof of divine power, a view so few outsiders get to see. I tried to run towards Ralph, but dozens of people rushed down the stairs and grabbed my arms and legs. I thrashed and yanked, but the sheer number of hands on me left me immobile. A fly trapped in a spider's web. Who are you people? Darcy laughed, the same stupid and friendly chuckle she used all the time. Oh, we're not people at all. God calls us mistakes, evil unleashed by Asbiel's misdeeds, the unholy union of man and angel, a spawn to all that is dire and bleak. We are the children of the dark, my dear, and you are our necessary tribute. I turned back to Darcy. You're a monster, and you're just in time to celebrate the harvest, she whispered in my ear. She cackled as she tapped the middle of my forehead. Everything went black. The smell of kerosene brought me back from the dark. It was all around me. The fumes filled my nostrils and made me see small bright stars in my closed eyes. When my lids finally fluttered open, the first thing I noticed was the orange rays of the rising sun. A new dawn, a fresh start. I was standing, and when I tried to move, I found that someone had lashed my body to a pole in the middle of the massive bonfire that I had heard the festival planner discussing earlier. At my feet, I saw the lifeless bodies of Jason, Mookie, and Mom. Oh God, my loving, gentle Jason. Mookie, my curious, precious boy. My wonderful, headstrong mother. My foil and my heart. I'd killed them all. Tears flooded my eyes and washed down my cheeks. My lofty dreams had manifested in our waking nightmare. I offered them hundreds of apologies, hoping that would wake them up, bring life back to them. It didn't. The church bells chimed. I looked up and noticed the entire town standing around the bonfire, heads lowered in silent prayer. I screamed at them to let me go. I bargained with them. I would keep their secret if they let me leave. Appealed to the humanity. Whatever of it might still be in their diseased minds. I begged for mercy that I'd never receive. As the bells tolled one by one, the townsfolk finished their prayers and raised their faces to me. I saw them all. Sweet Lou, Chip Hogshead, Rachel, and the rest. Blank faces, all of them. No humanity behind their eyes. Darcy, their ringleader, stood in front of them. She held a torch above her head, welcoming the morning orange glow with one of her own. She was the only person still with their head bowed in prayer. Darcy, please, not like this. Please have mercy. The church bells ceased ringing. Asbiel, we offer you this harvest. She tossed the torch onto the kerosene-soaked woodpile. It instantly ignited. The last thing I remember feeling was the bubbling of my skin and the painful screams I let out as the fire consumed me. Judy, have you ever heard of Sky's End? The eager husband asked his wife. Oh, what is Sky's End? It sounds like a video game. Oh, it's a gorgeous small town. Look at these photos, he said, clicking through the slideshow on the real estate page. Oh, wow, she said. You weren't kidding. Super pretty. Why are you showing me photos of a small town? The husband smiled. Well, I know you've always wanted to open a game store, right? A quirky little place where people can gather and play games and all that stuff. Sure, that's a dream, but it's a dream for a reason. We're broke. Well, I may have been secretly saving money for a little while. What? Enough for a down payment. They have a building for sale. Cheap, like dirt cheap. Look. A few clicks later, he brought up the building in question. The wife laughed and smiled. They're selling their church? Look at the cost, babe, it's nothing. They're practically giving it away. We can swing that. She said. Maybe we should schedule a showing. I already have, the husband said. Rose is the name of the realtor. Very nice lady. Sounded old as dirt, but that might benefit us. The wife beamed. Is this for real? Are we really considering this? Hell yeah, we are, the husband said, patting his wife's hand. I have a good feeling about this.